everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For this video, I will seek to look at the final topic in the EDPM syllabus, which speaks about ethics. Now, ethics, which is also called moral philosophy, is the discipline concerned with what is morally good and bad, or morally right and wrong. So it's on this premise of us as individuals knowing right from wrong, good versus bad, that the syllabus seeks to speak about something known as intellectual property among other areas, because it's expected that these things will be our guide towards our decision making. Now, with that said, for this video, I would have gathered my data from the World Intellectual Property Organization. Some of the information came from there. I also got some of my information from JIPO, which is Jamaica Intellectual Property Organization, as well as Donna Price's textbook, EDPM text. All right. Some of our information is also used for this. And it is always very important to quote your source. And when we get further on in the video, you will know why. Let us now start off by looking at intellectual property. Intellectual property, IP for short, is the right of a person to own his original creative works. Persons who gather, produce, and disseminate creative work include authors, singers, journalists, inventors, filmmakers, photographers, and sculptors. Intellectual property protects the manner in which the creative work is expressed. Creative work includes ideas, literary work, painting, music, recordings, inventions, logos, brand name, and design. What are some of the rights that are protected? Intellectual property rights are the rights to which creators are entitled for their work. There are two rights of the owner that is protected by intellectual property laws, and that speaks about the economic and the moral right of the persons. Let us first look at the economic right. Economic right is the right of the owner to receive payment when his work is used by a third party. And that's only fitting. Persons would have spent hours, right, creating their work, and it only makes sense that if someone else seeks to use that information, that the owner would receive some form of payment for that. All right, and then we have what is called the moral right. Now, moral right is the right to have or not to have the owner's name shown prominently on any copy or public display of work, to use a fictitious name, or to oppose any violation of his integrity and reputation through misuse of his work. I have another definition for moral right. I have or violating the integrity and reputation of the author through misrepresentation or misquoting of the person's work. All right, so that's two different definitions for moral right. So you seek to go with the one that best, suits your understanding. Then we look at what are some of the categories of intellectual property. Intellectual property is divided into two main categories. First, we have the industrial property, which covers industrial designs, trademarks, geographical indications, and patents. And some persons say patent, some say patent, right? So you go with your own pronunciation. Just ensure that the spelling is correct. And the other is known as copyright and related rights. And it says here that a third subject area currently under discussion and development is the protection of traditional knowledge, traditional culture expressions, and genetic resources. And I have a diagram here that I got from JIPO's website that speaks to that. So we have intellectual property and the three branches, well, the two main ones that I spoke about: industrial property, that is broken down into these four: industrial design, patents or patent, trademarks and geographical indications, and the other copyright and related rights. And then it says that traditional knowledge, it says here that this is another aspect that is under discussion and development. So later on in the future, we may see this one coming fully on stream. Moving on, what are the types of intellectual property? So we're going to now look at these here, right? The industrial property. So the types of intellectual property. So we start off with patent. Now a patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention. Generally speaking, a patent provides the patent owner with the right to decide how or whether the invention can be used by others. In exchange for this right, the patent owner makes technical information about the invention publicly available in the published patent document. Next, we have trademarks. Trademark for brand identity. A trademark is a sign capable of distinguishing the goods or services of one enterprise from those of other enterprise. So it is a sign. So the trademark is a part of the brand of a company that you can see. So some trademarks may be, you may see a sign. What are some of the signs? And the Nike sign. When you see that tick, you know that that is a Nike, right? When you see the man with that hockey stick on the horse, I think it's a horse, you know that that is Polo, right? So some of those things that you can see, those signs that you can see, those 3 slashes, you know that that is Adidas, right? So you know that those things are trademarks. Now, I have a distinction here. When you look at some products, you will see some of them with this TM on it, or you may see some of them with this R on it, right? So I sought to distinguish between those two for you. So we have something on that. So I have here the trademark symbol, TM for trademark, is a mark that companies often use on a logo, name, phrase, word, or design that represents the business. It, however, has no legal meaning as it is not registered. Then you have the registered symbol, right? And the registered symbol, which is the R, which represents a mark that is a registered trademark. So when the trademark has been registered, then the company will use that R, right? You see that R in a circle on the products. So you can look at any product and you will look out for that TM or that R, which speaks about their trademark or their registered trademark. Next, we move on to industrial design for a product. An industrial design constitutes the ornamental or aesthetic aspect of an article. A design may consist of 3-dimensional features, such as the shape or surface of an article, or of 2-dimensional features, such as patterns, lines, or color. Geographical indications. Geographical indications and appellations of origin are signs used on goods that have a specific geographical origin and possesses qualities, a reputation, or characteristic that are essentially attributed to the place of origin. Most commonly, a geographical indication includes the name of the place of origin of the goods. So that last sentence will sum it up for you. Next, we have trade secrets. Trade secrets are intellectual property rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed. The unauthorized acquisition, use, or disclosure of such secret information in a manner contrary to honest commercial practices by others is regarded as an unfair practice and a violation of the trade secret protection. And the final one that we're going to focus on in greater details is the one that is known as copyright. So I have here copyright for material, and I have the symbol that is used for copyright, which is a C in a circle. All right, so wherever you see that, you know that that is a copyright symbol. And this is a frequent question on your exam paper. So get familiar with it, please. Now, copyright is a legal term used to describe the rights that creators have over their literary and artistic works. It gives the owner exclusive right to duplicate, publish, and sell their materials. Works covered by copyright range from books, music, paintings, sculpture, and films to computer programs, databases, advertisements, maps, and technical drawings. Now, what is copyright infringement? The use of another person's work without his consent or crediting the source constitutes something known as copyright infringement. And that includes software piracy, and this is the unauthorized copying, use or illegal copying of software that has been copyrighted, making illegal copies by typing, photocopying, or scanning information into a computer, recording live music or videos without permission, broadcasting or performing copyrighted material to the public, and finally, copying or burning CDs or DVDs for sale. Now, I do not know what country you are in, right? But for us in the country that I'm in, we often have persons on the street side selling CDs and DVDs. And whenever they see the police, they start to run. I wonder why they're running. They are simply running because they know that what they have done is illegal and is punishable by law. All right? And that is also why when you go to the movies, they tell you that you cannot video the movie when you go there. Although we know how people are, and so you'll always have persons who will try to violate. And that is also one of the reasons why I'm trying to refrain from not working the multiple choice papers, right? Because I know that it is wrong. And for me to be teaching something about it and then actually doing it, it doesn't speak good, right? It leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. All right, so moving on, I'm going to give you a question here. It says, which of the following are not protected by copyright? Films, books, inventions, or broadcasts? And then the answer is broadcasts. All right? All right, so we look now at ethical standards. The ethical standards related to intellectual property are affected by three categories of people: publishers or distributors, as those who enter into agreements with producers to record, film, or print the material and distribute it in ways that would secure the financial interest of producers and prevent the unethical use of the material. So we have publishers or distributors. Next we have consumers or users. Now these are those who have access to all types of information but must acknowledge the source or seek permission of the producer through the publisher, who may charge a fee under certain circumstances. All right? And then finally we have the producer or the owner. Now, as those who maintain ownership and control over their material and receive financial reward from the user through the publisher. So those are the three, it says the ethical standards related to intellectual property and the three categories of persons that are affected. Now let's move on to something known as plagiarism. Plagiarism is the use of another person's creative idea and displaying it as one's own without acknowledging the source. All right? So for me now, I would have created this video, right? But majority of this information, I would have outsourced. I would have done my research and I would have gathered information from different sources. All right? And so for me to avoid plagiarism, I would have to do certain things, and I'm going to speak about that next, right? So one of the things that I would have done is to notify you, all right? I allowed you to know that some of the information I would have gathered from various sources, and I would have stated my sources. I could have also placed the information that, as I've done in previous videos, in the description in the description section of the video. All right. So it says that some of the guidelines to avoid plagiarism include, all right, and so we have guidelines to avoid plagiarism: acknowledgement of references in text and bibliography. For example, use of referencing. And this is important. So whenever you are given a project at school, that is why you should always present a bibliography to the teacher, right? Because all that information that you present in that project was never your own. You don't just magically think of all that information as a teacher asks a question and put it on paper. You would have got it from somewhere. And to show proof that you got it from somewhere, you would have a bibliography or a reference list. All right. So this, okay, should be referencing format. I'm just checking this. So it should be referencing formats, right? So the other one now speaks about obtaining approval to use other person's work. So you can ask permission. All right, I went ahead and I asked CXE permission to utilize their work, right? Cite reference sources by acknowledging the author. Paraphrase. So you can go and you can do your research, but put it in your own little way. All right? Put your little tweet. Persons don't talk alike. You have your little slang, you have your, paraphrase it. The other is acknowledge the author. Place author's work in quotations. Make sure you give credit to where it is due. And finally, use the information to generate your own ideas. All right. So some of these sound so similar because if you use the information to generate your own idea, then that is a means of you paraphrasing to some extent. All right. But you understand what I'm trying to say. All right. So because I did that a while ago, this came up. All right. So that is it for intellectual property. And I do hope that you would have gotten some understanding as it relates to that and all that it speaks about. Now I'm moving on to a different aspect with this unit, and it's an aspect that speaks about referencing. Now you will do your research for your projects, right, etc., and you will be required to have your bibliography. How do you go about writing that bibliography, that reference page? That is what I'm going to be looking at for this section. So it says referencing formats. The reference and/or bibliography consists of a list of sources used to obtain information for preparing a document. Information may be obtained from books, internet websites, articles such as newspapers and magazines. The American Psychological Association, in bracket I have APA style, is the recommended format to be used for referencing CXE, CSEC documents. But there are other referencing formats. They have one known as MLA. All right. There are others, but for our subject area, we utilize the APA format, right? American Psychological Association. Now, the guidelines of citing references include, and I have a little diagram here. I don't know how you can see, but I try to explain. So how do we reference? We start off with the author's surname. So I have here initials are separated and ended by a full stop. Example, Mitchell, J.A. All right. So author's surname, comma, then the initials. Right. And Barrett-Whyte, so it would be Barrett-Whyte, comma, D, full stop. Multiple authors are separated by commas and an ampersand. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Example, Mitchell, comma, J.A. comma, and then you have that ampersand, right, which is basically a little and symbol. Let me say that. Stick to what I'm used to. The little and symbol, and then the other person's name, right? Their surname, comma, and then their initial. All right. Then you have the date published, which is the date of publication. Now it says that the date refers to the date of publishing. And if the date is unknown, then we use something on an n.d. So it will look like this, n.d, if it is that the date is unknown. So we have the author's information, the date of publication, and bear in mind that this date is placed in brackets. Years gone by, we normally place the date of publication at the end. Now it is after the author's information. Then we have the title of the source, right? And the format of this changes depending on what is being referenced, right? If you're referencing a book, etc. All right, and location of the publisher, and then the publisher's name. So where the publisher is located. So if in the US, the city and the 2-letter state codes must be stated. Example, San Francisco, CA. If not in the US, the city and the country must be stated. Example, Sydney, Australia. And then we have the name of the publisher. All right. And then we have here retrieved from, and we have the name of the source, which is an online source, by placing a URL there. All right, we're going to go in greater detail, so don't worry yourself. Now, how to cite a book in APA format, right? The book title, so not the chapter, but the title of the book. And this is the common one that we normally use. So it says, book referencing is the most basic style. It matches the template above, minus the URL section. So the basic format of a book reference is as follows. So we have the author's surname, comma, their first initial, right? Then we have full stop. In bracket, we have the year or the date of publication, full stop. Then we have the title of the book. The title of the book. And then if it has editions, the first edition is not normally placed there, right? But if it has second, third, fourth edition, we place edition in bracket, followed by the publisher's location and the name of the publisher. All right. And so an example of that, James, A.F. And this book has 2 authors. And then the and symbol, not going to call that ampersand word, can't pronounce it properly. So James, A.F. and Wang, L. And we need to bear in mind that we get the commas and the full stops correctly. All right. And this is a key thing for the EDPM subject area, right? Because like your assignment 2, you are marked for APA format in your referencing section. So you need to know this. All right. So after that, we have the year of publication in bracket, full stop. Then we have the title, right? The title of the book. And then we have second edition in bracket. All right. Then we have the city and was it the city and the country? Let me go back. We have the city and the country, right? The city and the country. So we have San Jose, Costa Rica. And then the name of the publisher, my publisher. All right. And note the punctuation marks that are used. So that's how we reference a book. How do we reference a newspaper article? So I have your Michelle, comma. So basically the first part is the same with how we reference the author and the year of publication. Then the information is written. So changes to citation formats shake the research world. So remember, this is a newspaper article. All right. And then we have the Mendele Telegraph research news. And then we have the page retrieved from, and we have the URL being placed there. All right. We don't normally use this aspect, but you still need to know it because you have other subject areas and you're moving up in life, university, etc. So you still need to know it. All right, how do we reference a website? So we have the name, the information for the author, the year of publication, but note also that the date is there when this article was written. All right, not only the year, but the date, the month and the day as well. All right, the name of the article, how and when to reference, and then the URL retrieved from, and then you have that URL being placed there. Now I've decided to include APA referencing with in-text citation because for your exam you're normally asked, or well, I've seen one question that asks you about how you reference something using in-text citation, and for assignment 2 you must have an in-text citation in it. Alright, that is 1 mark. Now it says in-text citation are citations within the main body of the text and refers to a direct quote or paraphrase. They correspond to a reference in the main reference list. These citations include the surname of the author and the date of publication only. Using an example, author James Mitchell, this takes the form. So we're using James Mitchell is an author and we're doing an in-text citation within our research. And how would we cite that? So we can cite it one of 2 ways. We can start off by saying Mitchell 2017 states, and you will write what Mitchell states. Or you can write what the person states, and then after you have said what they have said, then you put their name and the year of publication in bracket. Alright, so the referencing can take one of 2 forms. So please note that. Alright, so we're winding down. So we're moving on from referencing now to the latter part, right, of this unit that speaks about acceptable work standards. So as it relates to acceptable work standard, we should also ensure that we have proper organization of work and our workstation. Workstation is basically here that you work at work. Submission of assignments. Assignments should be well prepared in mailable standard free from errors. Effective time management. Now this ensures that work assignments are completed within a prescribed time or deadline, and we utilize something known as follow-up procedures that ensures that required actions on a matter is taken. And finally, and this is normally on your exam as well, alright, desirable habits and work attitudes. The display of good habits and work attitudes contributed to the efficiency, or contributes, let me say contributes. Contributes to the efficiency of the organization. A habit is a characteristic or tendency to constantly behave in a certain manner. A habit is a characteristic or tendency to constantly, I should have underlined that word, constantly behave in a certain manner. An attitude is the manner, emotion, or action towards an object or a person. Right? I saw the need to define those before we get into some listing. So I have here 2 listing, some examples of work habits and some examples of attitudes. So as it relates to work habit, we have individual responsibility or working without supervision, willingness, meeting deadlines, team spirit, cooperation, and recognition of diversity. As it relates to attitude, good grooming, respect for others, personal integrity, punctuality and regularity, courtesy, and tolerance. And with that said, I am happy to have taken you through the entire syllabus for EDPM. Let me hope that you would have learned something that would have taken you throughout your life, right? Because you don't just learn for an exam, you learn for life. All right? Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video if you have not yet done so. Also, please comment below. Let me know how these series of videos have assisted you in preparing for your exam, preparing you for teaching these subjects to your students, or just you learning something new. Alright, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and become a part of my EDPM family. And also, please share this video with someone who you think may benefit from the content, as intellectual property and references is something that we all need to know about. Alright, thank you all very much for watching, and see you in my next upload as I try each and every time to make EDPM simple. Goodbye.